You've tried delegating. You hired a VA, you hired a copywriter, you hired a lead gen firm, you hired a marketing agency, maybe you've even hired a bookkeeper, but somehow you're still overwhelmed. The work is seemingly off your plate, but the results are questionable, and you're spending more time, cash, and energy managing those individuals than you are saving from delegating. And here's the truth. You might be making one of these 3 core mistakes in delegation that's keeping you stuck at the revenue level you're at and actually costing you money. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to fix those mistakes and how to finally use delegation to break through to your next revenue level. All right, let's dive in. You've heard the advice. Stay in your zone of genius, buy back your time, focus on what you love, who, not how, 10x is better than 2x. You've heard all those frameworks, and they're not wrong. But challenges, they often get used way too early, and they can be a way to avoid doing the work in our business that we actually need to do in order to grow it because we've delegated to someone else. Because if you haven't nailed your message, you don't know how to sell your offer, you don't know how to do marketing in the way that's going to bring you in clients, and you avoid your business finances, delegating those parts of your business isn't smart. It's potentially sabotaging your business. So again, we're going to talk about the 3 major mistakes you are making when you delegate. Mistake number 1, delegating the core work in your business too early. So if you are an entrepreneur in the first few years of a business, let me make this super clear. Not liking a task is not a good enough reason to delegate it, especially when it's core to how your business runs and how your business makes money. You started your business because you were good at your craft. You're good as a coach. You're good as a consultant. You're good as a service provider. You know what you're probably not good at? Talking about it, marketing about it, selling people on it, and managing your business finances. None of us were trained on how to craft our message. We weren't trained on how to do marketing. We weren't trained on how to have a sales conversation or how to run a sales process. And even I, as an MBA, definitely wasn't trained on small business bookkeeping and accounting. I know how to read a P&L, but how do you set up QuickBooks? I have zero idea, which is why I hired someone to do that part of it. Most of you early on won't like doing these things. And there's the tendency to say, how can I outsource this and delegate it to someone else so I don't have to do it? But truth bomb, these are the core functions of your business. This is how your business makes money. And if you don't understand how your business makes money and you don't get good at, the core functions that make you money in your business, it's going to be really hard for someone else to do it for you. You don't have to do all these activities forever. If you get big enough, you can hire people to do some of these core functions in your business for you. You have to do these tasks for long enough and get good enough at them so that you know what you're handing off. So some examples. You might hire a copywriter too early because you're like, I don't know what my point of view is. I don't know what I want to say, but they don't know what you want to say either. And so they can do their very, very best, and they are very skilled at pulling your insights out of you. But if you haven't worked with enough clients, you haven't come to your own positioning and your own way to speak about what you do and how you do it and who you do it for, they might come up with words that don't sound like you. Why? Because you haven't figured out what you want to say yet. And again, copywriters can be great and they can be really helpful in pulling that out of you, but you have to get enough reps in before you hand off your voice to somebody else. You might hate marketing, so you bring in a social media marketing agency and the content flops. Some of it might be because your message isn't clear enough to resonate yet. And some of it might be you don't know exactly what you're selling, you don't know who your client is, and so broadcasting on social media isn't actually how you get clients. You may need a different marketing strategy that probably revolves around you going in front and having more conversations with individual people, which a social media agency is not going to do. The final example is you hire a bookkeeper and ask them to keep your books clean, but then you're also asking them to tell you about your business profitability, and some will do that, but others will just classify what you tell them to do, and you're not getting the insights you need about really the financial fluency. And far too often, I've seen books handled by bookkeepers that are missing accounts, that are double coding entries because it's not clear on the communication. And so if you don't know what your books are supposed to tell you, even if you have a bookkeeper, you are probably going to be spending a lot more time cleaning up after them because it wasn't clear. Most of us aren't inherently bad at sales and marketing and financials. We're just early. We've never been trained on how to do that. And the only way to get better, to get good enough to hand this off to somebody else, is to do the work yourself until you've got something that you know gets you reliable results that you know you can delegate. In this case, you want to get support, you want to get help, you want to get training, you want to get coaching on these topics. Trust me, I did not learn how to do bookkeeping myself. I did it with somebody, but I also didn't delegate it to someone else until I was really confident in how my financials worked. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two is hiring without a process. You may not have a delegation problem, but you have a clarity problem. So we assume that hiring someone will save us time. But if you don't have a system, a standard, or success metric, you're just passing chaos down the line. So for example, you hire a VA to do lead gen and to reach out to people on LinkedIn on your behalf, but you don't define your ideal client. You don't count what's a good lead. So now you've got a bunch of strangers in your inbox and none of them are buyers. And you feel like you just paid this person a lot of money to go reach out to people that weren't really a good fit because you didn't have clear templates, clear tools, clear ideal client for them to reach out to. Or you ask someone to take over your inbox and respond to messages or onboarding, but you don't have a system for how you like to think about handling your inbox responses. You don't have a clear onboarding sequence. So you're like, onboard this person. And they're like,
I don't know what to do.
Now they're asking you questions every day and you're more stressed and not less. Or again, you bring in someone to help with social media, but you don't know what marketing you like to do. You haven't done it on a repeatable basis. So they're waiting for you to create content for you, but you don't have a system for getting your thoughts onto paper. You don't have a content backlog from them to work from. So you've hired them without a process. They might bring their process, but they're also, depending on who you hire, going to be asking for you to have some of that in place. You can recover some of this by filming your screen, by doing the work alongside someone else. But if you aren't doing something consistently, repeatedly, with the process that someone else can follow, even if it's not documented, someone else is going to have a hard time coming in and taking that work off your desk if there's no consistent work to be taken off your desk. Delegation doesn't work if the back end is broken. Otherwise, you're not really outsourcing tasks. You're just saying, here, someone else figured it out for me, and the person you hired might not be equipped for that. And that can be expensive. And mistake number three, this is the one that people don't want to talk about. A lot of people, when they delegate, they actually outsource ownership. At some point in your business, that might be a great idea. You're like, oh, well, I'm just going to have them handle my marketing. I'm going to have them handle my scheduling. I'm going to have them handle my finances. And if we outsource ownership, we're not really delegating. We're kind of abdicating. What happens is you stop checking numbers, you stop reviewing your copy, you stop leading your team. And that's when things can go really sideways. Let's get real. No one cares as much about your business as you do. No VA or agency or contractor is really going to carry the vision for you. You can outsource execution, but you can't outsource direction. And delegation should multiply your impact. If you say, oh, someone else has my numbers handled, I'll check in them every once in a while. Someone else has sales handled, I'll just check in every once in a while. I've heard horror stories about this. Someone else is going to handle my client experience, and then I'm going to check in on them. I assume it's fine. They've been trained, but you might have clients having a really horrible experience because you aren't checking in on them because you assume that they got it and have delegated ownership. Really, you've abdicated leadership. This is one of the trickier mistakes that no one really talks about because, we really want people to have an ownership. We want to have an ownership culture. We want people to take ownership. Depending on how you've hired and who you've hired and sort of their level of ability to match that ownership, it's going to be really challenging. Again, you're the business owner. No one's going to have as much ownership as you do, particularly not early on when you're still forming what your business needs to be. So what to do instead? If you're early in your business, or even if you're making up to 6 figures and you're still kind of stuck, it's really about making sure your time is spent doing the right things. So here's where to start. Make sure you keep or get support with, but you maintain control over the core activities in your business. Write your own messaging and have those human-to-human conversations until it starts to land with real humans. And then you can work with someone else on your behalf to sharpen that message. But you need to do the heavy work and the heavy lifting and the conversations to really land your message. You want to sell your own offer so that you know what objection shows up, how to handle them. You know which topics resonate and how to get in front of new clients. You want to understand your own finances because profit and taxes is your responsibility, and you should know how your books are set up so you can read them and catch people's mistakes. Once you've nailed that, then you can start thinking about, okay, what are the other activities that are not part of my message, my sales, my marketing, my finances that I can delegate? You want to start thinking about, okay, do I do these activities repeatedly enough so that I can start building a process behind it? And how am I going to be staying in right responsibility with anything I've delegated, particularly until I have enough cash that I can delegate someone who feels as much ownership as I do. You can't skip doing some of these core activities. You can't skip process, and you're never allowed to fully step out of managing these functions that you've delegated because you ultimately are the one that has to set the direction. Delegation is powerful, but it's only powerful when it's done from a place of strength. So here's your move. Have you maybe outsourced that you need to bring back in house? Where are some processes not quite as dialed that you want to dial in? And where have you maybe stepped too far back that you want to lean more in to make sure you have the right ownership over the parts of your responsibility that you've delegated? Thank you for watching today's video. Like this video if it saved you some money in hiring. Comment with the thing you delegated too soon, because we all got one. And subscribe. Keep on coming back for more Deeper Foundations.